Station Casinos just became the fifth major Nevada casino company to be hit by a cyber attack, which makes us wonder, is Las Vegas doing enough to protect your data? And why does our city keep ending up in the crosshairs of hackers? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're speaking with Greg Moody, the director of UNLV's cybersecurity program, to try and find out. It's Wednesday, June 3rd. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hey, Greg, thanks for joining us, man. Look, Las Vegas casinos have been hit a lot lately. MGM, Caesars, and now Station Casinos. Is there something specific about how casinos operate that make them such an attractive target for hackers?
It's not specifically how they operate, but it's the size of the reward. So casinos have a lot of cash in, cash out, a lot of transactions. So because of that, it just makes a very valuable target. They're very well known, they're very public, and they have to deal with a lot of visitors coming through on very non-routine things. And since they have lots of cash that just goes through, they're just very lucrative targets for hackers.
Gotcha. And in terms of a protection standpoint, what are they doing to protect themselves? Like, are they doing enough compared to what the size of the target is on their back?
Yeah, so there's several things that come in with security at play. So there's a lot of compliances they have to do first. And compliance isn't security, but at least by industry standards, those are the base things that you have to have in play. So there's a bunch done by the state for the gaming control boards, and they have a lot of electronic standards to help protect on that side. And so they're following a whole bunch of stuff. And when it goes to the industry standards, are they doing a good job? Yeah, they're complying with everything that is there. I'd be surprised if there's any really large gap that they have. All of them have a person that's over the cybersecurity aspect of protecting their data. They all have teams. They're all working hard. They all have spent a lot of money on the right software and the right tools. It's just imagine you're playing basketball and your goal is to get the highest points, right? But when it comes to cybersecurity, you're not allowed to play offense. You play defense. Can you stop every shot that's taken through a whole game the whole time? No. At some point, if someone's trying hard enough, even if you have the best defense, if you had the dream team of the Olympics way back in the days, they will eventually score.
So it's just one of those deals where you're like, hey, look, it's going to happen. Just make sure our defenses are good enough to kind of solve it quickly then?
Yeah. I mean, that's how we call it. We call it security in depth. You think of it like an onion, just like what, Shrek likes to talk about. Security is like an onion.
Yeah, peel back the
Not
layers.
that it makes you cry. Yeah, there's just, you want to put a lot of layers on. So when someone tries to get through, they might be noticed, they might be stopped, they might be just delayed or whatever. Because if someone wants to try hard enough, there's always a way to get through. There's just way too many connections to data, to resources, to technology, to different pieces that it makes it impossible to get through. So there's always a way if someone's trying long enough with enough skills or with enough resources.
And so with this particular hack, with Station Casinos, how does it differ from what we saw with MGM and Caesars?
So MGM and Caesars particularly, they were both hit by the same type of actor who went through their customer service desk. And why that is a favorite point for people is because your customer, like your IT desk, if you're having a problem with something, what do? You call them up and they're supposed to help fix it and solve it for you. And so they targeted them specifically because they were programmed to do that. And they were able to get their main access point. And then from there, they jumped until they got where they wanted to do. What happened through Station Casinos, usually all these do come down to the same way, is someone's particular account that has access, their credentials get breached. Through Caesars and through MGM, it was by means of targeting through the help desk they got that access. Through Station Casinos, it was they got a single employer's access. They stole those credentials, and that could have been through any number of ways. They could have been involved in a breach through a different company, a different site, and they just happened to have their email and their password was there that were breached somewhere else. They could have been targeted. It could have been malware on their machine. But again, they just got access through an individual person who should have access. And because of that access, they're able to escalate their privileges, is what we call it. So they escalate what they could do within the system to gain access to more and more data until they got to where they wanted to do, which caused the incident to occur.
And earlier you talked about, like how robust, the system is in terms of what the casinos have access to, and that's what makes them very attractive and everything like that. So for, visitors and locals, like what should they actually be worried about when their data gets caught up in a hack like this, specifically when it's related to a casino?
So, I mean, first thing to know is that most people's identities have been breached somewhere by someone that they deal business with. So
Mm,
don't get overly alarmed that this is new. For the most of us, we're not being specifically targeted. We're just, an outcome of what happens because they're trying to get millions of data points. And so the best thing to do is just basic cybersecurity hygiene is make sure that you're monitoring your financial systems. If something like that happens and you see transactions that are happening that you did not do or you did not authorize, contact that institution immediately and say, hey, this wasn't me. Another good piece of advice is to make sure they're not using this same password with your email address for any other different sites. That way, if it is breached at one place, it can't just be flipped and turned somewhere else to access an account that you have elsewhere.
Okay. So I guess you're telling me this is something, again, like don't overreact. Customers don't need to be like, I'm going to think twice about handing over my personal information for those casino rewards programs.
Your personal information is already out there. And then think about it. What information are you given with the rewards programs? You've probably given your name, your address, your email, your phone number, and then it's the behaviors of shopping and experiences that you do with the casino. If you were talking to a friend, would you share that type of information? If yes, you're not going to be overly concerned.
Yeah.
What's a bigger concern for like these casinos particularly is they get a lot of their money through a very high clientele list, what they call their whales. And when those are breached, the other casinos want to get them too, or those are very high net worth individuals that are likely to be targeted for money because they have so much more resources. They can't come after people like you and me and gain millions of dollars because we don't have that sitting in any of our accounts that can access
Yeah.
through a rewards program. So when they steal our data, it's more incidental. Is they're just going to sell that on the black side of the web, and you can sell someone's identity based upon how much information you have for different dollar amounts.
Mm.
And so they make their money that way because people then use that to try to spin it against a different attack. Say if you have a whole list of email addresses and passwords, and say you have like first name and you have like address, you can try to use that for an attack elsewhere and see if anything matches.
And I'm curious, as you bring up the point about the whales and stuff like that, is that kind of the biggest like damage control then that these casinos are doing to be like, hey, don't worry, we're fixing this so this doesn't happen to a lot of the, high rollers?
So a lot of casinos actually keep those lists very separate in a different area of their systems.
Wait, so there's a VIP section for the whales in terms of our data as well compared to the quote unquote normal folks?
Absolutely, because think about
What?
it. When they walk into the casinos, they're treated very differently. And that's not just due to that rewards program. That rewards program is to help deal with a lot of upselling, experienced analytics, AI, big data kind of stuff
Huh.
to help know how to use the resources. Those wells, as soon as they schedule, there's already a whole special staff on hand to make sure that all of their needs are met. And so they track all that information too. So they know that if there's some that whenever they want to come to the table and they're dropping, like you say, $500,000 that night, they know what type of candy, what type of liquor that they need to have on hand for that person. And that's maintained. But see, that's not in your loyalty program. That doesn't store that type of information.
Yeah.
So they are storing that. They're storing it in a very separate place because that is very important to them because they don't want to lose those clients. They bring a lot of money to them.
Interesting. Yeah, which I guess when you break it down that way, it makes sense because of the hospitality side of it, of making sure they know as much as possible about them. But then when the hack occurs, then it's like, okay, there's even more data out on these guys. So you need to, I guess, beef it up a bit more in that regard. So it makes sense, even though as, a quote unquote normal person, I feel kind of like, wait a second, why isn't my data just as important,
Well, we're not treated the same as them because
Yeah,
we're
I
not
guess.
given the same amount of money. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that's life, right? I guess that's how the world is. But when you look at the Station Casinos one in particular too, like they reported the breach to the Nevada Gaming Control Board, by my understanding. But beyond that, they didn't share, a ton of details about what happened or how many people were really affected. I know someone is trying to sue them right now, sounding like they're saying, it was a bigger breach or more of a problem than they're willing to admit. What's the current regulatory framework look like in order to force casinos to be more transparent? Is it good enough or does it need to be beefed up?
So the laws that we have in Nevada are equivalent to most other states that have laws about this. No, I said most other states. It's not all 50 states that have laws about disclosure. It's around 33 or so right now. But if you're dealing with customer data in the US, you're likely to have people from other states involved in your database.
Yeah.
So by de facto, I mean, since California initiated the law first, there's almost a California in everyone's database. So they have to release if they have a data incident. And then why do they not disclose a ton at first? Simply because it takes a long time to investigate. So just like when there is a crime for the police and someone's house got broken into, they're like, tell me who did it. The police are like, dude, we just showed up. We're dusting for fingerprints. There's a whole process that takes a long time. And it's not something they can get done in, even a day or two. So this is the same type of thing, but it's actually on a much larger time scale. So if your house gets broken into, how long does it take for them to come to your house, close it up, put the police tape up, dust for fingerprints, go through everything?
Yeah.
A couple hours at best, right? Now imagine if your breach involved, say, 20,000 houses and they're all digital. So they didn't break anything. They had a key. They accessed the door. They walked through. They turned off the cameras. They went to your safe, entered the passcode. They didn't take out money and stuff. They copied everything and then walked out of your house and left it as it was. And so that's what they have to investigate is every time a computer or a machine does anything, it records that information on a log.
Yeah.
So they're having to go back through all the logs and verify, okay, we've identified that this access by this entity was the fake one who was not doing what it was supposed to. So let's track what they were doing. They have to go through and track. And often when the attackers are doing that, they try to pivot who they are and change their username, their passwords to someone else or to other accounts, or they send it elsewhere. And so they're doing a lot of stuff to try to hide who they are in the first place. So it simply takes a lot of man hours to track all of this down within a minute.
Yeah, your crime scene is the entire World Wide Web, So yeah, that does make things a little more difficult.
And yeah, you get lawyers involved. You can't, they're even very careful when they notify and say, an incident occurred, because they don't even know what type of incident it is yet. They don't know if someone broke in, was copying stuff. They don't know if someone broke in, was trying to break stuff, like with Sands back in 2014. They weren't coming in to get customer data. They were coming in to destroy whatever they could because they were mad at the owner of the casino. And then other times people come in and they're installing software to lock up all your data so you can't get access to it. And so they're asking for a ransom back. And so there's different types of attacks. So they didn't even say what type of attack it was because they don't necessarily know yet. The attacker may have just been accessing the network and trying to get their fingers all over everything they could so they could then start to steal, but they got interrupted before they did anything. And so there's lots of things that could or could not have happened yet. It takes a lot of man hours to investigate to know what actually then happened.
So it sounds like what you're kind of telling us is that, hey, look, even though a lot of us, we live in a world where we want answers now, it's like, hey, look, this is a much more convoluted crime scene, quote unquote. That I think are you essentially saying more patience is needed? Like these casinos are doing the proper channel and they are regulated enough. It's just that it's just a different deal.
Yeah, it is a long process to do all this. When the whole state was down for 2 weeks, it took roughly 2.5 months to complete that investigation. And that was by pulling in extra resources and working tons, thousands of man hours to finish that investigation for them to conclude, okay, here is what happened and here's how. And then they can't disclose a lot because every single time anything like this happens, there is a lawsuit. And then when there's a lawsuit, guess what you can't do?
You can't talk about it.
Right. So you can't disclose all this public data stuff, except for notifying that, by law, they do have to then notify, hey, you might have been involved in a security incident. Here's what you should do. And they give you very standard protocols, like what I just said, of, monitor your financials. Because I don't think most of us will care of, oh, they now know my address, because if someone wants to know your address, that's already public domain for the most part.
As a journalist, that's easy to find,
Right. If they want to know a lot of stuff about you, there's a lot of stuff about all of us that's public because the government has open records for lots of things. And, we pass those as laws. So we've agreed to that. So a lot of the stuff that is breached about us is not necessarily critical or sensitive. It just depends on what the nature of the data that was stolen. So it takes a while.
You talked about the state there, and I hear that, and I think, that sounds more serious than a casino, So, in that one, how was that different than a casino hack that we've seen here in recent, years?
So the state one is actors gain access to one of the departments of the state, and this is what they disclosed to. It started with the DMV at first. And see, that's why I say, oh, what information does the DMV have of me? They have my name, they have my
Yeah.
address. I'm
What kind
like,
of car I drive?
okay. Okay, not really concerning. And then the state's response, did it hit all the state agencies and departments right away? No, but the state's response was a standard response. If you're getting attacked and you see that your resources are being used, you take them all off. This is the example that many cyber people do. If your plane is flying and the engine has a problem, do you land and take care of the engine, or do you try to fix it while you're flying?
Hmm.
You land. So the state said, "Hey, we have an incident with DMV going on, and it's calling the resources across all these other departments. Let's take them all offline while we investigate." And as they went through every single different department, agency, or group or division, whatever, because they have lots of different ones, right?
Hmm.
As they cleared each one, they came back online. And that's why DMV went down first. DMV is one of the last ones back up because it started with the
Oh,
DMV. And so it did come back up till they thoroughly went through the whole thing to make sure it wasn't still sending out data to bad actors.
gotcha. And I guess in the whole thing of this too, we're wondering like, what's the next step then? Like, what more does need to be done? Like you said, I know playing defense, you're not going to stop every shot, if you will, to use your analogy there. I guess what's being done to make sure this stuff doesn't happen at the same rate, or to try and mitigate it a bit more? Like, how are we trying to increase our defensive strategy a bit more?
So, I mean, there's two things. And just also this history of crime. We accept as a society that there's always going to be a certain crime rate because trying to get to 100% perfect compliance with law is just not possible.
Hmm.
There's always people who engage in nefarious things because either they can or they will or they like it.
Yeah.
And so with cyber, we play the same game. As new attacks are discovered, we have to develop new defenses to stop them. The problem that we've had on the cyber side is, just that Tom and Jerry cat and mouse game that keeps happening. So as they get better, we get better. So that happens real time. But we have been lacking on the people side for years.
Mm.
We do not create enough talent for the positions. We have around 500,000 positions around the country unfilled in cyber. And
Hmm.
that's a large
Wow.
gap. Yeah. See, that's if people are like, oh, we need more jobs. I'm like, cyber's been howling for jobs for years. We don't get enough people.
Is it a problem of like the really good ones are the ones doing the hacking, or like why do we have such a gap in how many people are actually filling those jobs?
So both, all of that. The
Hmm.
people who are really good at this financially, you can make more money being a bad guy than the good guy.
Mm.
That's just straight up. One example I give in class is, what rate of return are you happy when you invest money? And most people are like, hey, if I make 20%, I'm killing it. I'm doing awesome. And I'm like, okay, well, attackers make something like 80,000%. Like even just a basic phishing email that you think, hey, it doesn't hit me, it doesn't matter. They can spend 20 to 80 bucks, send it out to like 1 to 2 million people, and get a hit rate of 0.001% and make like $20,000.
Wow. So then I guess how do we solve that? Yeah, how do we solve that here in Nevada? Like the work that you're doing at UNLV, like how are we able to push it forward? So obviously we want to see it spread, across the US, worldwide, all that stuff to beef everything up. But like here in Nevada, what are you doing? What's the right course forward to make sure those positions get filled and that we do have stronger defenses built up?
So that's what we've been starting to do is we created a talent pipeline is we got to train more people. And so that's been the problem, not just in Nevada or Vegas or in the country or the world. That's been a worldwide problem. There haven't been
Mm-hmm.
enough people because it's a newer field. Now, granted, thanks to Hollywood, there's more people interested in it because they see shows. They're like, wow, hacking's so cool. It doesn't happen like that in real life, but it looks really cool. But people are at least aware of it now. So the talent pipeline, the gap is slowly starting to shrink. And then the next thing that's going to hit it is if you don't have enough people, you have to make them more effective and more efficient.
Hmm.
And these days, how to make people more effective and more efficient? You give them better tools. What's the tool that's around right now to augment people? AI.
Hmm.
So we're not worried about AI stealing our jobs because AI is well suited for dealing with lots amount of information. As I said, when you're dealing with, millions of logs about every data point that's happened in the network to track down something, that's data. That's where AI is powerful. I mean, we've been using machine learning for years already. Machine
Mm-hmm.
learning is the precursor to AI. So we are actively pursuing tools, capabilities, and resources that use AI to make our limited pool of people do more than they could before. And so that makes us more effective. But on the flip side, it also makes it more effective for the attackers.
For
As
the
I
bad
said,
guys, yeah.
every tool, it's cat and mouse. If we get better, they get better. And so it's the same game over and over is we keep learning, they keep learning. And as we have a misstep or mistake, I mean, that's the bigger thing is that we have to share our problems so that they can't be repeated by others. And so there's plenty of conferences and situations where that does happen. And that usually is the healthy environment. Sometimes some places don't like to share. And that just means it'll just hit faster. That's why the cyber attacks usually go through trends. Is they'll hit a certain industry with the one attack, and then the industry learns that it doesn't work there anymore. So then they pivot and go to a new industry, and then they try that industry out, and then they learn, and that gets all fixed up. And we just call it the problem of the low-hanging fruit. Like if you're walking through an orchard, there's a whole bunch of low-hanging fruit. You can just grab it and eat it. Eventually, there's no low-hanging fruit. You got to go get ladders. So what they do, they just pivot to a new orchard and like, hey, there's low fruit again. We can hit all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because once they investigated an attack that works well, you don't try to develop new attacks. You just keep using that attack until it stops working.
Interesting.
Particularly for small, medium-sized businesses, we have what's called a cyber clinic. And how to explain that, like you've heard of free legal clinics, so you have students that sit at the law school and you can come in and get free legal advice. We do the same, but for cybersecurity. So small, medium-sized businesses, they probably don't even have like a technical person on their payroll. And so what they can do is they can reach out to you in LV. We actually have a site where you can do the intake form, just like with the legal services. And we have a dedicated group of students who can come and help. They can audit, they can investigate, they can look at your resources to see, are you set up well to help protect against a basic cyber attack? So again, those practice attacks, you want to make sure they can't hit you. We can come and look and see, are you doing the basic stuff you should be doing so you cannot be easily hit? So we're actually one of the leaders in the nation for that.
That's
we were
really
one of the
cool.
first to develop that. And so anyone that's listening, if you have those smaller size businesses and you want some help on the cyber side, reach out. We will gladly send a group of students out. Again, they're supervised, they're trained, they know what they're doing. They're not just random people.
Yeah.
We call it the white hat hackers. That means they're doing it for ethical, good reasons, but they can come out and make sure that, you haven't set things up wrong so that you can get hit by a really small, basic, simple thing that could have been totally preventable.
That's good work you guys are doing over there, Greg. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, though, take care.